Okay, so in the past, we have learned about some structural HTML elements like main, like header, like footer, and those are used because we can organize what's on our page so that we can easily address it with our CSS. We don't have to create a div every time we want to address the main section or the header section because it's already coded into an element of its own. So it turns out those aren't the only structural elements. If you look on page 282 in your book, you'll learn that there are some more structural HTML5 elements called the section element, the article element, the aside element, and the time element. The section could just be like a section of the document, like maybe a chapter or a topic. The article could be like an independent entry, like a blog post or a electronic magazine. The aside could be like a sidebar, just kind of something maybe off to the side of your page. And then the time could be a date or time. These were introduced under HTML5, so older browsers can't support them. So we're going to learn about how to fix that in a little bit. But these will continue to change as the W3C continues to work on new innovations for HTML. HTML, CSS, JavaScript are going to continue to change and develop new techniques to make it easier for developers. Okay, so you need to open in HP 6-10, the index page, and currently it looks like this. We're going to remove everything in the main element. So inside from main to main, delete, and then we are going to type the code that is on page 283 under step 2, okay? Now I'm cheating because I'm the teacher. I already have it typed and I just copied and pasted it. So if you want to look at my version, pause the video, or if you want to look in the book, you can. So notice what we have here. We have a section, and all of this is going to be coded in a section. Then we have an H2 for a bistro blog. Then we have an aside, which we are going to make float to the right side of our page. There's a H3. We've used a date and time, and I think those are all the new elements we have. And these also have header elements. There's header elements inside the section elements so that we can target just the headers that are inside the section. So it really lets us be more precise with our CSS. Okay, then scroll back up to this H1 that is in your original header right after div ID wrapper, header H1. Right below that, we're going to add a span that says the best coffee on the coast. Best coffee on the coast. Okay, so now if we look in a browser, this is what we have so far, and it looks pretty bad, right? Because this header is taking on the CSS rules of this header, okay? And that's not what we want. We want these headers to appear different because they're the headers that are inside of our section. All right, so let's go fix our CSS. This starts on page 283 and goes to page 284. We're going to edit the embedded CSS for the H1 element selector. So let's find our H1. And if you ever get lost in your code, a trick is on the keyboard, do Command F. Oh, I gotta have this selected. Command F is for find. And then you can just type H1 and it'll highlight, look, there are 3 H1s, and it took me right to it. Okay, so we're going to set the bottom margin to 0, so I'm just going to delete that too. For the H2 element selector, set the font size to 200%. So we need to find the H2, set font size 200%. In the span, configure for the span element. Do we have span? Do we have a span? Let's check and see if we have a span. No, we don't have a span, so we need to code a new one. So right below my style, right before my style closes, I'll do the span selector. Okay, So copy those over for your span. We had a padding left of 20 pixels, font size of 0.8 em, a font style of italic, and a color of 00005D. Now we are going to code for the header element contained within each article element. So how can I address the headers that are within the article element? So let's do article header. That's a descendant selector. We're saying go to the article section and then find all the headers that are in that section. Okay, copy those declaration statements over. We set a background color of white. We set the background image to none because our regular headers have that lighthouse background image and we want to remove that from the headers that exist in our article. We're changing the font size, the padding left, and setting the height to auto. Now if you refresh your page, you should notice that all these headers no longer have this, okay? And then our span for the best coffee in the coast appears here. All right, let's keep coding. So the aside element contains some information that we want to float to the right of our page. So let's do aside float right. Okay, now code your aside with the float right, width 200 pixel. For the background color, it says to use a light gray, so I just typed in the word light gray. It should pop up and you can just type it in. Now, whenever you are using the word color for a color, it has to be the actual color that is a legit HTML color. Like it can't just be something you made up, like pickle green. That doesn't exist in HTML. But if you did type in something like green yellow, there's a green yellow. So I just typed in light gray and there it was. Padding 20 pixels, margin right 40 pixels, font size 80%. I did a box shadow of 5 pixel with a dark gray. And then we're using position relative with a top position of negative 40 pixels. So that knocks it down 40 pixels. And if we take a look in the browser, this is what we should have. So congratulations. Look at you learning so much.